Hello everyone, my name is Ugnė Ubartaitė and I'm here to talk to you today about my experience as a user using Angis.net or angis.lrt.lt. First of all, a little bit of information about me. In Python, I'm essentially a nobody, but I'm 17 years old, I've lived abroad and studied internationally. Currently, I am in 11th grade in Vilnius Lyceum, that's the school that's just down the road. I'm studying in the IB program, the International Baccalaureate, and I am a hobbyist programmer. I did the first season of Angis, which was essentially the first collection of lessons a year ago, so I was 16 then. And what you will see now are my thoughts on it and, well, how I essentially felt during it. So, but first of all, we have to find out how I found out about Angis in the first place. It reached me through word of mouth. The story is actually quite interesting. So a year ago, I was at home and my father came up to me and he was like, hey, I was online, I found this thing. It's called Angis.net. You can learn to program with Python. And I challenge you to complete all 14 lessons with it. A challenge is a challenge. How will I not accept? And so I accepted the challenge and this is what brought me here today. We'll start with the most important thing. First impressions. You Google Angis.net, you put it into any browser and what comes up? Well, first you get this introductory page. It's relatively new as far as I'm concerned because I didn't see it the first time I opened it, but now if you do, you see it. And it gives you a short introduction about what Angis is and it lets you start the actual program. It takes you to the main website. The main website looks like this. It's clear from a user's perspective. You see your avatar and the levels. You understand that intuitively that this is where all the information about you as a user is going to be. You see the help button and the contact us button because automatically these things they may not be really important to a user, well, consciously, but subconsciously they're the sign of a really good website. You see some kind of other functions that you don't exactly understand at the very beginning, but as you go into the program, you understand that this is where you can create your own programs. Later on, you notice things like the design. It's really kid-friendly since the main audience is children from around 2nd grade to my age, which is 17. You find it really appealing. You see things like the register button, which also tells you directly what you need to do. You see points systems, which tells you that this is going to be a video game type of thing. And then you start taking a look at those video game types of things at the levels, because at least for me, as a child, I'm really interested in video games. And I think this is the largest piece of appeal that this website could possibly have. In order to teach children Python, you have to get them interested, and I'll admit when I opened this webpage, I was really interested because as a completionist, seeing these kinds of things was really motivating. So when we take a look at the levels you see while opening the website, you see that each level has a name, so you understand what you're going to be learning in it. You see the description, it helps you understand what's going to happen. There's a completion indicator, which is also really helpful for people, especially for me. You see bright green buttons that tell you what you need to do and where you need to do it. And this all gives you the feeling that the user here is very thought about. At least for me, when I saw this, I thought that this was a really thorough program that will, well, keep me engaged until the end. And what engaged me the most, as you can see with the red arrow, is the points. Especially the points that I hadn't gotten yet. Also, this program works in a really interesting way, where levels unlock after a certain amount of time. This was really interesting to me as well, because I'm a person who likes to breeze through everything really quickly, and I have to thank the developers for teaching me patience, because otherwise I think I would have finished it in an hour. First impressions of level design. I actually really enjoy the simplistic side views that they have in the levels. They combine 3D elements and 2D elements really well. I think especially for younger children this would be very engaging. When I asked my sister, who's currently in 5th grade, she definitely said that it was really helpful for her to see these characters and moving around, especially when in the actual programming window you only see them to be that big. Then the art of the game itself, from my perspective as also a hobbyist artist, beautiful. It's digital art, and when I saw it at first glance, I thought that this was going to be really amazing. There's really pretty brush strokes and impressive anatomy in it. The only thing that I really laughed about was the font, which doesn't match any other part of the picture. But I understand that because Lithuanian is a language where if you open, say, Word and search for fonts that have our special characters, you're kind of out of luck because there's like 5 of them that you can find. Right, and now up to the greatest thing that gave me the appeal. I am a gamer at heart. I like playing video games, as do most children, and what video games really appeal to is a sense of completion and sense of collecting as much as you possibly can. And so here in this completion slide, you can see that your goal is to collect all 14 lessons, to complete all of them, and to get as many points as you can. And so your primary instinct as a user, at least that's what mine was to go, 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 go. And you go. Except suddenly you realize that you're not getting all of the points. Because I was really excited to start. I opened the program, I started going, and no matter what program I wrote, I could only get a certain amount of points. Be it 4 out of 15, 5 out of 20, 3 out of 10. And I was really confused about this. I searched around the webpage for a little bit, but I was getting frustrated. It was insane. I didn't know what to do to get more points because I wanted them. I wanted to be the best. And then after a phone call to a higher up at Visma, I found out that I'm just blind. Essentially, the way you can find out how the point system works is a bit convoluted in this website, at least that's my opinion. Because in order to find out how this website functions, you have to go to the help button, which takes you to the Angis wiki. And then you have to read through the wiki to find this little hypertexted thing called taškai, which is points in Lithuanian. And then you have to click on that, and then you find out that points are actually given on a time-based system, not on a quality of programmed system. That was big news to me. I had no clue. In all the advertisement, as far as I did my research, they did say this explicitly, that the points are given based on time. So if the task unlocks on Sunday, say, and you complete it the same Sunday, you will get maximum amount of points. If you are late a month, you will get minimum amount of points. I didn't know that. I was really frustrated. And so this was one of the ways to find out about points. The other one is also really interesting because it's not next to the info button, it's in the settings button. In the settings, you see this taškų skaičiavimas, which takes you to the wiki page again, and outside of the website. So this is something that, in my opinion, is a bit complicated, especially when you're finding out about this program from word of mouth. It gets confusing, but through trial and error, everything works. So that was like a short introduction, and now we'll move on to some deeper, more in-depth analysis. We'll start with the tutorials. Every level has a video tutorial, right here. And they're all not too long in length. None of them, I don't think any of them reach 10 minutes. They're all about, like on average, 6. But show of hands, who here has children? Like below 18. Great. And now I want you to rate your child's attention span. Thumbs up being perfect, they could listen to me all day. Thumbs down being I have trouble keeping them in one place. Okay, I see a thumbs down, I see a thumbs down, I see a thumbs down. Yes. And now I'm going to be brutally honest. This is how I watched the first lesson. So yeah, later on they started getting a bit more interesting to me because I started paying more attention to them, but my first instinct was to just either skip it or look at it through fast speed. Partially the reason is because it's full of examples, and these examples might work for children grade 2, grade 3, but for children above, like from grade 5 to grade 12, it gets a little bit boring and or confusing. The general structure of each video is the same. There's an introduction where two workers introduce the topic you're going to learn. There's an example, a real-life example. There's an explanation with the code. There's another example, and then there's an introduction to the task. All clear, all fine, no problems there. The tutorials are also played a really big part in the way I did this program, because I would always go back to them and take pictures of the hints that they gave so that I could more easily complete the tasks. Every tutorial had a part in the video where they show you either like a hint to what you're supposed to do or a blurred out code that you're supposed to replicate and guess, which, I won't lie, was really helpful when I was too lazy to think, but to each his own. And then every single programming window also had some helpful code that you could use. My biggest confusion was the examples in the tutorials, because there was a lot of them, and they could get a bit confusing. For example, I took all of this from one lesson, each of these examples, lesson number 4 about cycles, and it gets confusing when you start to have to relate Minecraft trees with 3D printers, with car license plates, with Facebook. And I don't think that a second grader can put all of these things together and then functionally do the task. But that's my opinion. I'm 17. I can't speak for every second grader out there. Now a bit more in depth on level design. So, first of all, dark mode. Beautiful, gorgeous. I love that it's dark. Maybe that's a personal preference, but it really, because each level releases in the evening, at least that's what I remember. I would do them in the evenings, at least. Dark mode really helped to keep the strain off my eyes, and as someone who likes to program, dark mode is just something I really like. And the design choice is unique, because most other web pages that are tailored to children are very light, in my experience. Here in the programming window itself, you see a lot of tools, and it is also my opinion that a second grader might get confused with these tools. Like, for example, how to move the bar to the left so that you could see the task itself clearer. But this is all fixed through the method of trial and error, which I think that children really should use more. And that's why I think that this quote-unquote flaw is actually a really great aspect of the program. It encourages curiosity. Another thing I noticed was that each level had the regular level assets that you need, but the assets are never explained in the program, or they're partially explained towards the very end of it. And I thought that maybe some kids might be curious about how they work at the very beginning. I was curious about how they work at the very beginning. And so this is something that maybe in Lithuania, when we have a question, we have a name for children who ask the question why a lot. It's called kodėlčiukai. And I think that children like that would really get heated about this specific part, and they'd probably go do more research, or they just drop it and move on. About the tasks themselves, 8 out of 10 times I found them completely clear. I could do them without any issues. If I had issues, I just watched the tutorial again. I remember I was really confused about this specific task, which essentially taught us how to use mouse inputs, because you have to click and drag PNGs around the field to decorate a room. But I was really confused because it just didn't seem to work for me. It took me way longer than usual, so I don't know, maybe that's just a personal problem. Another great thing about this program that appealed to me is that it appeals to psychology and the psychology of completionism. You see things being done, and then you see the final at your grasp, and you can't wait to get there. And that's what really kept me engaged in this program. One other aspect that I think children and me really liked is the continuity of both the code that you're learning and the storyline. Both of these things have some mutual dissonance, because the continuity of the code is great. Every single lesson you use something that you learned previously. So when you're learning the cycles or while, or I don't remember how it is in English, but yeah, when you're using that, you use the knowledge that you gained from previous lessons when you learned about errors. And then when you're learning about errors, you use the knowledge you learned from assets, etc. So in that way, I think this is great. The storyline itself, which I want to discuss because I am a child and that was one of the main appeals to me, is very predictable but fun. Let's place it that way. There's 3 characters. There's a dragon, there's a fairy, and there's a knight. And then there's one bad guy. I don't remember his name. I'm going to call him bad guy. All of them have to go stop this bad guy because otherwise the world will end, and they go on all sorts of wacky adventures while they do that. They're so wacky that I just had to point them out. One of the tasks, as I said, is decorating a castle while the world is in danger. Another task is playing rock, paper, scissors with someone while the world is in danger. And another task is using filters while the world is in danger. And I'm not saying this as a flaw, this is a plus. I love this kind of fun insanity in games, and I think that children really benefit from this kind of creativity and curiosity. It's a traditional story with a great twist, and overall, I think that you guys should take a look at it, not for the programming, but for the story too. It's really fun. In general, how engaged was I? Well, to me, as you've probably noticed, completion and gratification are some of the greatest drives, and to most children it is as well, at least from the people that I've talked to. And so when you see this +1 and all those points getting collected, and once you finally reach that final level, you really get a sense that you learned something. Even if you struggle throughout, like I did sometimes, I felt like I learned and achieved something with this program. There are some possible improvements. The tutorials for the programming themselves, those videos, they're great. The website, maybe it could use some like pop-ups when you open it for the first time that tell you where to find something, but that's also optional. The wiki is a bit complicated to navigate for young children especially, but that's again my opinion. And well, the video tutorials, if there is ever a time when technical capabilities let the people responsible for this make the videos not skippable, I think that's the best course of action, because otherwise most people are likely to skip this beautiful video that people definitely put a lot of effort in. And I think that they deserve to be seen. What did I learn? I learned the basics of Python, some website design skills from things that I just noticed. I learned some program design skills after playing around with the sandbox Python programming window in the website. And I learned something about user bases, ironically. Because I started thinking about how my sister would react to the same things I'm reacting to, and how my cousins who are even tinier would react to things I'm reacting to. And that made me think that I shouldn't present just my own opinion to you today. And so I set out on a perilous journey to find another form of teenager, maybe someone younger. It took me a long, long time to get up those stairs and open that door, but I found my brother, and I asked his opinion about level 1. All I said was, here, do it, and nothing else. And now I will present to you what he said. So about tutorials, he said similar things to what I said. He felt that there was too much talking about other things than the program and too much irrelevant info. I would disagree with him, but he is 14 and was playing Minecraft at the time, so I think I might have been distracting him and he wanted to get it over with. When I asked him questions about the user interface, he said that he would like a tutorial pop up at the very front page because he got a bit confused about some things, like how the levels move and where he can find his account. But once again, that's something that you can learn from trial and error. It's definitely not some kind of flaw that would impact everyone. He was confused about which buttons he needed to press, but I think that's just a him problem, because, I don't know, seems pretty intuitive to press all the buttons you see. About the task itself, the first task is really simple. It's just moving the character up, down, right, left. He did all of it through trial and error because that's how you usually learn. And he was really confused about how the prince moved at first because it took him a while to find the task itself, like the 3D model. But once he did, everything was clear and he finished the level in about 30 seconds. His final review, and this is a quote, "Enjoyable overall, a good idea." Final thoughts of mine. I think that despite its very minor flaws and despite the potential improvements that could be made, Angis.net is something that could become eventually revolutionary the more people, the more schools, the more children it reaches. I would recommend this program to anyone who's just starting out, even if you're 55 or a genius at 5 years old, whatever you want. The flaws, they do not interfere with your experience. I'm just being picky sometimes, as you probably noticed. And well, I learned that Python is interesting, because up until this point I was programming in C++, and when I saw Python for the first time, I really felt like I won't enjoy it. But this program helped me enjoy it. And well, I'm trying to avoid copyright, but there's a really famous rat that says, anyone can cook. I'm gonna be a less famous rat and say that anyone can program if they use Angis.net.